Okay.
Hey, Fountain Springs Church, we have an incredible treat for you.
I like watching the clock.
And financially, to make sure that students get to be a part of what they need to be a part of. You are not a separate part of the church. You are the church, and we're going to help. You and the students become what they need to be. So thanks for being a part of it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. I think you probably got what I got. You got to see his heart. Ryan is a great guy, and he's going to lead well. But now is a time for us to hear from God through Ryan. So church, come on. Let's give a warm welcome to our new student ministry pastor, Ryan Callahan.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. It's an honor to be here. My family and I are just humbled by the experience. We're very relational people, and so we would love to meet with you, interact with you after each of the services, and just get to know you. If you have a student that's not going to student ministry, I'd love to just get to know them and see if we can get them plugged in. Today, we're going to finish up a series called Relationship Goals. Over the last 3 weeks, we've been looking at 3 kind of big ideas that I'd love to walk you through and tell you where we're going today. The first week, we talked about how you prepare for marriage, and Pastor Todd actually talked about the single life and how you maximize your singleness. If you didn't catch that sermon, I highly recommend going back and listening to that. The second week, Pastor David talked about how you prioritize your marriage. He talked about what you run from and what you cling to and how important it is to prioritize your marriage the right way. This week, I'm going to be unpacking how you pursue. What does it look like to pursue your marriage, your relationships that you have? This isn't just a sermon about marriage. It's a sermon about relationships. How do you pursue your children? How do you pursue those that you work with? How do you pursue dating relationship? All the relationships in your life, how do you pursue that? And the question we're going to kind of try to be answering today is, what does it look like to have a successful relationship 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? If you're anything like me, you've been watching the Winter Olympics. I love the Olympics. I love competition. I love watching guys and girls go at their goals with all that they have. And one year in 2004, I was watching the Summer Olympics. And I was watching this particular event that I don't normally watch, but it was a shooting competition. And this man, his name's Matt Emmons, was in one of the competitions. He was actually in his second competition of the Olympic events, and he was chasing gold. This would be his second gold medal. He was in first place by a wide margin, and no one was anywhere near him on the scoreboard. He's running from lane to lane and shooting each target. He's hitting a bullseye, and he's hitting a bullseye, and he's hitting a bullseye. And he gets all the way to the end. It's his last shot. He lines up. He gets in the pocket. He breathes, checks his scope, making sure that everything is aligned. If you're a shooter in the house or you go hunting, you know exactly what's going on. In each of the pockets, he's having to run from shot to shot to shot. So he needs to get his breathing under control, and he does so. He scopes in his shot, and boom, perfect bullseye. He stands up, and as he's celebrating, he's smiling. He knows that he's going to be on the platform, and all of a sudden, he turns and he sees the Jumbotron, and there it is. He has gone from first place to last place. They show that his score is a 0, and all of a sudden, he's in shock. He doesn't know what has happened. Well, then he goes back and he looks at it later and realizes he has shot a perfect bullseye on the wrong target. See, the reality is a perfect bullseye on the wrong target impresses no one. Like, you and I are in a space and a time where we want perfect bullseye. We aim for the best in everything we do. And see, we don't give second to our relationships. We always aim at the target, and we always try to perfect those relationships. See, this story isn't about the Olympics. It's about life. It's about relationships. See, when we start a relationship, we often go at it with all we have. We pursue it with all our ambition and all our excitement and all our enthusiasm and all the things that we need to hit a perfect bullseye. When you're dating somebody, you wake up extra early for dates. You think about what it is that you can do to really win this person over. You go the extra mile because you realize that hitting the target means that you could eventually be married to this person. And so you chase it with all that you have. But somewhere along the lines, in relationships, we get comfortable and we stop that pursuit. We get complacent or we get comfortable. See, the story of Matt Emmons, what we find out, and he even shares about it, is that he did not prepare for these Olympics like he had all the rest of the Olympics. The Olympics, to him, were just a natural thing he did as a part of his competitive nature. Well, come to find out, the first actual competition of those Olympics, he used a borrowed rifle, which means he didn't bring his own rifle to the competition. We find out later as well that when he hit the perfect bullseye, he really wasn't concentrating. He had already, in his mind, believed that he was going to win first place. So he went into that last shot very complacent. See, you and I do this all the time. We think that we're doing the right thing. We're buying flowers or we're taking them out on a date. But what happens is the other party in that relationship proves to us that we're hitting the wrong target. So you and I can go there. We can easily say, yes, Ryan, I know what you're saying. I realize that my marriage sometimes is very complacent and very comfortable and very just, I'm focused on the right thing, but I'm not giving the energy that I once did. See, there's some scriptures that kind of talk about this idea. Before we get there, I'd love you to look at this particular point, and that's check your perspective. See, the reality is that we have to check our perspective against the target. We have to realize that our perspective is going to be different than the person on the other side of the table. Let me try to explain it like this. I was once in a leadership position where I was so frustrated. I'd come off this really important moment where I had to lead people a certain way, but no one seemed to be following me. And so I called a mentor of mine and I asked him, hey, can we go get coffee because I need to tell you what's going on and I need your help. We immediately went to a coffee shop and he sat down and he listened to me word vomit. He listened to me talk about all these things that have been frustrating to me. And he sat down at the table and he took a cup and he put it in front of me, just like the one here. And he said, Ryan, what's on the side of my cup? And I began to, because I've worked at Starbucks before, I kind of started guessing what was on his side of the cup. I didn't give it much thought, but I was kind of pushing towards like what I assumed would be on that side. He said, Ryan, you're assuming a lot about what's on my side of the cup. But the reality is, what's the only way that you're going to be able to see what's on my side of the cup? And I sat there and I knew where he was going, and he just said, you either have to come to my side of the table or you have to turn the cup around. You have to take a moment where you check your perspective against what mine could be. Because you can make an assumption about what's going on my side of the cup, but you really don't know until you take the time to get over there. You really don't know until you take the time to lower your own expectations and begin to see what's on my side of the cup. See, what he was teaching me was not only a leadership lesson, he was teaching me a life lesson. We can never hit the right target in our marriage or in our relationship if we're not focused on what the other person's expectation or perspective is. The Bible talks about it like this. Don't look out only for your own interest, but take an interest in others too. That's in Philippians 2:4. In another verse that was written by the same writer, he says, don't be concerned for your own good, but for the good of others. See, when we're interested in our own perspective, what often happens is we're not interested in someone else's. And this writer is hitting it right on the head. He's saying, look at the other person's perspective first and take an interest in them. Look at the other person's perspective. Be concerned about where they're at. See, in marriage or in any relationship you have today, if you check your perspective, what will happen is you'll be enlightened. You'll now realize, oh, that's where they're coming from. So the last time I bought flowers, or the last time I took them out on a date, or whatever it was that didn't go quite according to your plan, you'll realize, oh, that's why. They're in this kind of season. They're going through this kind of thing. See, it's important that we check our perspective against somebody else's because it sets us up for the success we're after. The second idea today is the idea that we would recalibrate our affection. See, once we check our perspective, the next step is to recalibrate our affection. Because when you check it, you're going to see there's a difference, and now you have to recalibrate. Like Matt Emmons, he had to get in the pocket, he had to look at the target, but he also had to recalibrate where he was in the competition. He had to see that his perspective was off, move the target to the right target, and then begin to affect that target. See, in the studies, in the literature, in all of the books that I read about these types of things, there's really 4 needs that a woman has. And those needs are this: emotional and physical security, regular and meaningful conversation, non-sexual touch, and romance. See, there's these 4 needs that every individual has, women specifically, that when we look at it, we need to see that they have these things: emotional and physical security. Dave Ramsey says the emotional and physical security can actually be tied to your wallet. If you save money, all of a sudden the emotion, like I feel secure in the marriage because we have a plan if a disaster arises. So that can be tied to money, but it also can be tied to other things. Regular and meaningful communication and conversation it's not just how's the weather. It's not just exchanging information back and forth. It's meaningful. How was your day? Where are you? What's going on in your life? How are you doing? Those kinds of things. Not, did you get milk? Did you get bread? Okay, we're good. The third idea is non-sexual touch. Women need to know that when we touch them, it's not always leading to a sexual encounter. And that's hard for some people because the man's brain is wired differently. His expectation and his perspective is different. He believes that touch is leading somewhere, and that's a good thing. That tension in relationship is actually why it works. Because if both were not interested in the next step, then we wouldn't go anywhere. And so it's important that we realize this, though, because the non-sexual touch is really important. I hold hands, I give you a hug, I rub your back. Whatever it is, it's not leading to something, and it needs to be shown to a woman. And then romance. Romance looks different for each individual. But there's a desire to be romanced, to be pursued, to be in relationship with, where it's intimate, where you've taken the time to sit down and say, this moment is about you, and I'm pursuing you romantically because you're worth it. Now, on the other side of the cup, there's 3 ideas that men work through, and their greatest needs are to feel respected and admired, loved and desired, and to enjoy sexual intimacy regularly. See, respect and admiration, if a man does not feel respected or admired in any relationship, he immediately discounts that interaction. They don't respect me, therefore they're not going to get my time. They're not going to get my effort. They're not going to. Respect and admiration go a long way with a man. If he feels respected, he will engage on a level he's never engaged before. Loved and desired. That there be this desire for him. Not necessarily what he offers, but for him. This meaningful love that's placed on him. Man, when we feel respected and admired, we also tend to feel loved and desired because these two kind of go hand in hand. And a lot of times it's not the words that are spoken that create these actual like check marks. Like it's really the feeling. So we would say that we're not, often guys go, well, I don't have a lot of feelings or I don't show my emotions. It's not true. We feel the room out to see, is that person respecting me and admiring me? And then we make a judgment about, do they love me and do they desire me? Do they care beyond just the basic level of respect? And the last one is to enjoy sexual intimacy regularly. See, that is a very important piece. Can I get an amen, men? Yeah. We all desire regular connection with our wife. It's both pleasurable, but it's also at the same time, what's happening is it's doing these two things as well. It's showing us that we're respected, admired, and even more so desired. And what it does is it creates this intimacy that the woman is after if she's regularly doing that with her spouse. See, this is really important for us to understand in the grand scheme of things. It's important to understand that when we look at the needs of our spouse, that we would understand that, and then that we would start engaging that. In the Bible, in 1 Corinthians 7:3, it says this: "Let the husband render to his wife the affection due her, and likewise also the wife to her husband." In this translation, in other translations, it talks about sexual intimacy and all. There was one translation that I picked this out on purpose because it really plays on the word affection. And the meaning of affection is this: a feeling of liking and caring for someone or something, a tender attachment. See, when he wrote the original in Corinthians, the letter to the church in Corinth, he was touching on this affection piece, this tender attachment. So everyone interpreted it sexual intimacy, but the better translation is this affection, this caring for somebody, this desire to attach in such a way. And so when we understand the other person's perspective, when we understand their needs, what will happen is we will begin to tenderly attach to them if we meet those needs. But there's another piece to this, and it's found in this book called The 5 Love Languages. And this book kind of details the 5 love languages that each of us have, and Gary Chapman does a really good job of explaining each one. Let me walk you through those. The first one is physical touch. Now, physical touch, as he describes it, is not just sexual in nature. It's holding hands, it's hugging, it's I'm with you, it's this embracing piece. The next one is quality time. Quality time is sitting down with no interruptions and focusing on that person. There's nothing else. The phone is away, Netflix is not on. We're focused on that person individually. The next one is receiving gifts. This is not only receiving gifts, but when the person with this love language, it needs to be a gift that they would actually want. It's not just any old gift. You don't go to the store and just pick something off the shelf and give this to them. They don't see that as love. What they see as love is when you take the time to understand who they are and then pick out a gift that plays into who they are. That's a big deal for these people. The next one is words of affirmation. And these words, again, they cannot be general. If I say, I really like you, that's not helpful for this person. They need to know why you like them. It can be written form, it can be verbal, but it needs to be specific. It needs to be things that actually pertain to them. You did a good job helps them not at all. They need to know, Ryan, I value you, and insert all the reasons why you're valued, desired, admired, etc. And the last one is acts of service. And this one is doing the dishes. This is going out of your way to take the trash out. These are service components where we took the time without being asked to do something that benefits the party that's looking for the love. These 5 love languages, what's really misinterpreted and misunderstood, and a lot of people don't understand, is that we will immediately give what that person is what their love language is. But that's not true. What we actually receive is often what we give. So if if we receive physical touch, we also give physical touch. And so we have to recalibrate our affection. We have to take the time to actually go, oh, like his love language is words of affirmation, not physical touch. So when I physically touch him, it does nothing for him. Let me give you an example of my own life. Mine is words of affirmation. My wife's love language is quality time. And actually, acts of service. These go hand in hand for her. And actually, I think this one is more important to her now than this one. I don't know if she would agree with that, but that's what I've seen kind of over the years that we've been married. But mine hasn't changed one bit. The reality is that I do not do these well. I watch Netflix, I scroll through Facebook, but I'm spending time with you. And there's these moments where she's got to go put the thing away, focus on me, look in my eyes, like spend time with me. Quality time is not what you're doing. She'll also go, if you just did the dishes today, that would be amazing. The problem is that if she has to tell me to do the dishes, then and I do it, it does not play to her love language. I need to just go in, see that the dishes need to be done, and do them. That's what loving her is. If I need to encourage her to give me words of affirmation, on the flip side, then it won't come across as loving. It will come across as I asked for it. And so we've had to work through this, and you're going to have to as well. Some of you have already taken the exam. There's a test that you can take to find out what your love language is. And I would encourage you as a married unit and those that are in relationship, go take this test, find out who you are, and find out the other person's love language, and then begin to go, how do I not use my words of affirmation, but actually use what her love languages are? How do I serve her? How do I give her quality time? And I guarantee you that this will build that tender attachment that you're looking for. See, when we know the needs of our partner, when we begin to see them through their love language lens, and we begin to practice that, what will happen is we'll begin to create this connection. And so the last point today is I want to challenge you to pursue connection. These two words are amazing to me because obviously this is our whole kind of goal here, but there's this connection piece. You don't just connect to somebody or something without pursuit. The Bible in a verse says this. It says, work willingly at whatever you do as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. Work willingly. There's this idea that we're going to work at it with all that we have. Pursuit has this just connotation to it that means I'm going to go above and beyond to work at it. Whatever I do. See, I'm working for the Lord when it comes to working in relationship. There's a danger if we don't look at our relationship as work. And I don't mean the type of work that you go, oh man, I don't want to do that. But the work that actually inspires you, the work that you want to get up to do in the morning. That's the type of work that this is after. What Paul is writing is he's trying to communicate whatever we're going to do, there's this willingness to get up and pursue it. This doesn't come naturally in relationships. It doesn't. It does not come naturally to desire to work towards an end goal. But if we begin to do these things, if we check our perspective, if we recalibrate our affection, what will happen is this pursuit will start to rise in our soul, and we'll actually want to connect with the other party, with our spouse, with our friend, with our colleague, whatever it may be. There's this young lady that I was watching, and her story was so inspiring to me. And her name is Heather Clump. And she's a runner, she's a marathoner, and she in college, she was in this race, and something really interesting happened. And I think any runner in the house today will know exactly where we're going with this, but I want you to see how she reacts once it happens.
Dornan last year scored 23 points for the Golden Gophers in their Big Ten championship, so they're really relying on getting a lot of points from her this weekend, and she's just coming by Fondor now in the home stretch, heading into the bell lap.
Dornan falling down, gets up quickly, but that's going to cost her. Lucky she wasn't injured.
Her teammate just went to the front, though, so they may be able to recover from that. And Dornan is flying down the backstretch.
She is catching up.
She is going to catch Fondor, and she may catch the leader.
Wow. She's got fun.
This is a gutsy effort by Dornan. Can she pull it off? She's moved into third. Dornan coming down the stretch from the outside. Dornan coming on strong. Dornan all the way. Dornan. She did it.
Absolutely amazing. She falls down. She immediately gets back up. She wins the race. That's an epic story. We look at that and we go, man, yes, I want that. The problem is sometimes in our marriage, what happens is we don't want that, or we fall down and we realize, man, I'm on the track. I don't think I can get up after this one. And we stay there. She said something Heather said something really interesting in an interview. She said, not every fall I've had has been quite so epic. But I learned that it's worth getting up every time. See, some of you walked in here and you're so upset about the fact that we're talking about marriage because you think your marriage is over. Let me be very clear about this. The idea of this whole series, the idea of the church in general, is that marriage would work. We want marriages to work today. We don't want it to be work. We want there to be a perspective change, but we also want them to work. We don't want people laying on the track saying, I can't do it, or just getting up after a fall and walking off the track. We want you in your marriage to go every time. It's worth fighting for. It's worth getting up. When I fall, when I make a mistake, when I don't love my wife well, I want to have the mentality that I can get up and I can pursue it yet again. See, we're all going to miss the target. We're all going to get down and we're going to think we hit a bullseye, but we haven't, and we've got to recalibrate. We've got to check our perspective. We've got to recalibrate, and then we've got to pursue connection. But it all starts with being willing to get up. Some of you in the room just need the inspiration and the challenge that your marriage isn't over. It's worth fighting for. No, you don't understand where I've been, Pastor Ryan. No, I don't. But I do know marriage is hard. And I do know there's times when I myself have fallen flat on my face. And I've considered and gone through all the moments of, I don't want to do this anymore. But then there's this prompting in my soul to say, stand up and run. Stand up and chase after. Men and women in the room today, whatever relationship you're in pursuit of, where you've fallen on the track, stand up and begin to run again. Don't let this be the end. Too many people are giving up too early, and I don't want that to be said of Fountain Springers. I believe your marriage is worth fighting for. Do you? Let's pray. Dear God, we come before you and we just thank you for the truth of your word. We thank you for the resources we have to understand our marriage and our partner better. But Lord, right now we need just to know that our marriage is worth fighting for. We need to know that it's important that we get up every time, no matter what happens. God, would you teach us what it looks like to pursue connection with those we're trying to love? And give us the strength to fight no matter what happens. I pray for the struggling marriages in the room. I pray that both parties would choose to get up today and pursue their marriage like they've never pursued it before. We give each marriage to you. We give each dating relationship to you. We give every relationship in the room today to you. They're yours. May you be honored as we pursue them in a healthy way. In Jesus' name, amen. I freaking struggled through that whole